Have you ever wondered why the stories Jesus told 2,000 years ago still captivate millions today? It wasn't just what he said, but how he said it. He was the master storyteller, and his techniques are just as powerful for us now. Whether you're a content creator, a business leader, a teacher, or just someone who wants to share a message that truly matters. Today, we're going to uncover 5 of his timeless storytelling secrets that will forever change the way you communicate. By the end of this video, you'll have a toolkit to make your own messages more memorable, engaging, and impactful. Let's start with the first technique: sparking curiosity through parables. Jesus rarely gave a straight answer. Instead, when asked a question, he often responded with a story, a parable. Think about the parable of the Good Samaritan. The question was, "Who is my neighbor?" Jesus didn't just list a set of rules. He told a story about a man beaten and left for dead, ignored by religious leaders but helped by an enemy, a Samaritan. This approach did 2 brilliant things. First, it disarmed his audience. Instead of getting defensive, they leaned in, curious to see where the story was going. Second, it forced them to think for themselves and arrive at the conclusion on their own. The lawyer who asked the question had to admit that the neighbor was the one who showed mercy. Jesus then simply said, "Go and do likewise." He didn't preach at them. He guided them to their own revelation. When you tell a story that makes your audience think, the lesson they uncover themselves becomes their own, and it sticks with them far longer than any lecture. Instead of just presenting facts, try wrapping your core message in a narrative that invites your audience to discover the truth for themselves. The second technique is to ground your message in everyday life. Jesus' stories weren't filled with abstract theological concepts. They were about farmers sowing seeds, women baking bread, shepherds looking for lost sheep, and fathers welcoming home-lost sons. These were images and experiences his audience knew intimately. When he talked about a tiny mustard seed growing into a huge tree, everyone understood the concept of small beginnings leading to great outcomes. He connected profound spiritual truths to the soil, the kitchen, and the marketplace. This made his message incredibly accessible and relatable. People could see the kingdom of God not as some distant, ethereal concept, but as something present in their daily lives. For us, this means using analogies and examples that resonate with our audience's world. Are you talking about company growth? Maybe it's like tending a garden, where you need to prepare the soil, plant seeds, water them, and pull weeds. By using familiar scenarios, you build a bridge from your idea directly into your listener's understanding, making your message feel practical and real. Third, and this is a big one for any storyteller: create and resolve tension. Every great story has conflict. Jesus was a master at this. His parables are filled with tension. Will the shepherd find his one lost sheep out of 100? What will the master do to the servant who buried his talent? Will the prodigal son be rejected when he returns home in shame? This tension is what hooks us. It creates a question in our minds that we desperately want answered. We're emotionally invested. We need to know what happens next. This is the engine of engagement. Think about the story of the father and his 2 sons. The tension builds from the moment the younger son demands his inheritance. We feel the crisis as he squanders it all and ends up feeding pigs, starving. The suspense peaks as he decides to go home, rehearsing his apology. We hold our breath. Will his father forgive him? The emotional release when the father runs to embrace him is what makes the story so powerful and unforgettable. The resolution of tension delivers the message, a message of unconditional love and forgiveness. When you craft your message, don't be afraid to introduce a problem, a struggle, or a crisis. Guide your audience through that tension, and the resolution you provide will be that much more satisfying and memorable. This leads us to our 4th technique: center your story on a relatable crisis. People connect with struggle because we all experience it. Jesus' stories often revolved around a central crisis that his listeners could immediately understand. A woman who lost a valuable coin and frantically searches her house. We've all felt that panic of losing something important. A farmer whose precious seeds fall on rocky ground. We know the frustration of wasted effort. These aren't just random conflicts, they are relatable crises that mirror our own spiritual and emotional struggles. The story of the 10 virgins, 5 of whom forgot to bring extra oil for their lamps, speaks to woman the unpreparedness. The crisis of the lamps going out right before the bridegroom arrives is a powerful metaphor for being caught off guard at a crucial moment. By presenting a crisis that your audience can emotionally connect with, you're not just telling a story, you're holding up a mirror. They see themselves in the narrative, and the solution or moral of the story becomes a personal guidepost for their own lives. When you share a message, think about the core problem or crisis your audience is facing. Frame your story around that struggle and your message will land with incredible relevance and empathy. Finally, the 5th technique. Craft memorable, sticky sayings. Alongside his longer parables, Jesus delivered short, powerful, and incredibly memorable one-liners that have echoed through 100 generations. The truth will set you free. Do to others what you would have them do to you. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. These are what you might call the original sound bites. These sayings are brilliant for several reasons. They're simple, poetic, and often use parallelism, making them easy to remember and repeat. They distill a complex idea into a digestible, portable nugget of wisdom. They act as the thesis statement for his larger stories. The parable of the Good Samaritan illustrates, love your neighbor as yourself. The story of the lilies of the field illustrates, do not worry about tomorrow. In your own communication, what are the key takeaways? Can you distill your main point into a single, memorable sentence? Heed to a sticky saying gives your audience something to hold on to long after they've forgotten the details. It's the hook that keeps your message alive in their minds. It's the phrase they'll tweet, share, and repeat to others. When you combine a powerful, sticky saying with a compelling story that illustrates it, you create a message that is not only understood, but is also easily shared. So, let's recap the 5 techniques from the master storyteller. Spark curiosity with parables. Ground your message in everyday life. Create and resolve tension. Center your story on a relatable crisis, and craft memorable, sticky sayings. These aren't just ancient religious tools. They are fundamental principles of human communication. They work because they tap into how our brains are wired to learn, connect, and remember. By incorporating these 5 techniques, you can transform your message from a simple presentation of information into an unforgettable experience. You can move people not just to listen, but to think, to feel, and ultimately, to change. Start with 1. The next time you have a message to share, try framing it as a story. Introduce a character with a relatable problem. Build the tension. Use an everyday analogy. And distill your core idea into one sticky, memorable phrase. You will be amazed at the difference it makes. Your message won't just be heard, it will be felt, remembered, and passed on. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this helpful, I'd be so grateful if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content on how to communicate with impact. What's your favorite story, and why does it stick with you? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next video.